For a great cup of joe, there's one thing you should know. Your morning brew can also be playful. Buff Boy Brewing guys make the temperature rise, and you surely feel naughty when you swallow our coffee. If you want some real heat, give your mouth a fine treat. You will want some more, rest assured. Buff Boy Brewing, you can't get enough of.
It's time for The Scribble, your weekly fix of celebrity chats, bizarre stories in the news, and basic random chatter with best-selling author and syndicated radio host Jeremy Bradley. Make sure your seat is in the upright and locked position and your barf bag is securely in place. Here's Jeremy Bradley.
Thank you very much, Larson. Jeremy Bradley here. This is The Scribble. Thanks for tuning in at thescribbleshow.com and on SoundCloud and iTunes. We are live on this May 5th. May the 5th be with you, everybody. Really, I've got to say that. And yesterday on Twitter, I tweeted, as you often do on Twitter, right? Don't you usually tweet on Twitter? That the May the 4th jokes were going to be everywhere. And so I said it should be like April Fool's. Or even saying, like, Happy New Year to somebody, there's a time limit. If you haven't made the joke by noon, there's no sense in making it at 7 p.m. Why would you bother doing that? So unless if you've set it by noon, okay, fine, get it out of your system, tweet it first thing in the morning, post it on Facebook, all your other nerd websites and social media places, and then be done with it. It's really not that funny. I think if it was clever and, like, it was the first time we ever heard it, but now every year I just... Jeez. Listen to me, I'm already starting the show like Donald Trump and barely completing one coherent thought. So, we are live today, as I mentioned, and I can prove that by telling you that Prince Philip has not died. He is just retiring. My God, by the way, Wednesday night. So here's what was happening, everybody. We were taping our entertainment show, Entertainment Wrap-Up, Wednesday night. And often we've got a TV in here, and of course CNN was not showing anything about the royal family. It's Trump 24 hours a day, essentially. And so, but we've got kind of a news scrolling thing on one of the computer screens here, and so I'm seeing all these things about Buckingham Palace, and I just thought, well, that's really weird because it would be the middle of the night there. Like, I thought, did somebody break in? Like, what? Why would this be trending? Why would Buckingham Palace on a Wednesday night in North America be trending? So by now you've heard the story, right? So at that time of the night, which it was I think it was probably about 9 or 10 o'clock at night, we're sitting here going, okay, what is going on? And like all good entertainment reporters, we jump on the Google and social media, and really we tried to find out, like, what's happening. Now, we're not basically... There's two kinds of reporting nowadays. You've got the rumor mill, that's where your fake news comes in, and you just rehash because somebody said this on Twitter, and that's what the story is. And then there's the actual going to a source. Now, back in the day when I was doing journalism, it was common practice to you get a double confirmation. So let's say, and he didn't die, but let's say Prince Philip actually did die. You would wait to get it from a reliable source. So a reliable source in this case could potentially be a relative from the family. Probably wouldn't say anything to the media. So your first confirmation could be, well, let's just say a local media report then. Let's say it was one of the British tabloids. I don't want to give the example of BBC because that's kind of like the official. So when him or the Queen would die, they are actually the media outlet that would be notified and make it public. So it's not a good example to say them. But let's say one of the British tabloids, which on Wednesday night, actually, the Sun, I believe, Sun tabloid, did report that Philip had died. So we would not use that in our newsroom or wherever I was in school or at the newspaper. We wouldn't take that. We would need double confirmation. If it's a big story like that, you need official confirmation from someone in Buckingham Palace, and that's where you're going to get your second confirmation. Nowadays, it's a matter of, okay, well, I've seen that French media and Australia media were both saying that he died. So you've got people that aren't even in London, that aren't even in England there, reporting it. Who is their source? What are they basing that on? And the general public doesn't often ask that. They just take it for granted and say, okay, well, that's a media outlet, so they've got the news, they've got the story, and that's what it is. So as a reporter, though, I'm hoping that people still have that criteria when they're going out and trying to get these stories, because it doesn't seem to happen a lot. As we saw, there were people falsely reporting, and then the general public starts picking up on that. So as we're watching the story, we're like, okay, we're seeing conflicting reports now. There was an official sort of statement that says at 8 a.m. local time on Thursday, so yesterday, there's going to be a statement from the Buckingham Palace PR people and the official House representatives, and they will make a statement. So we just thought, okay, well, there's really no sense in us sitting around midnight, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, until we know what the word is. And I didn't lose sleep over it, but I was reading all these tweets from people, and it's interesting that they're not a royal watcher. They probably don't even care about the royal family for the most part. And we saw this with Fast and the Furious, Paul Walker. When Paul Walker died, people that weren't even necessarily a fan of him all of a sudden suddenly now take an interest that he's dead. And the same thing with Prince Philip. 90-some years old, has been married to the Queen. It'll be 70 years this fall. Really, great sense of humor. He, from what I know of him, a great man. So certainly that's not something that we want to discredit. But, at the same time, for people to have that great sense of loss, I mean, I'm Canadian, so we do have, the Queen does mean something to my country, and Prince Philip does as well. But I don't know that I would be devastated about it. It would be kind of, I can't even say that I'd be sad, and I'm not trying to be insensitive by that. I don't think that I've got such an emotional attachment to them. Will it be a sad day in the country when they die? Because they're old and everybody's going to die eventually. So I'm not predicting anything right now. But yeah, I think there's going to be a sense of loss. Not that she's in our day-to-day lives. She's on our money and things like that. But it's still just kind of like that national pride. Just like Americans would feel if Donald Trump died, there would be a sense of mourning. I can't even say that with a straight face. So anyway, it was a long night for a lot of people who apparently were going to be staying up to just follow social media and see what was happening, and then come to find out that he's retiring. And then there's this outrage and people are pissed off about that. And I thought, would you rather he be dead? I don't understand this. So you're mad that he's not dead and he's just retiring, yet you're going to be sad that he was dead in the first place. Let's think about this, people. Let's figure this out. Let's sort this one out. Talk this one through for me. It's great that he's healthy. He's had some concerns, right? He's had some health issues in the past, and I think everybody's very happy that he's pulled through and he's still vital at 95, 96 years old. How many people don't even live to that age nowadays? So the fact that he's still up and around and doing 170 or whatever appearances a year, when you think about how many days you go to work every year, it's maybe the equivalent of that. I know when I was in school, when we used to do like a tally of this is day whatever in school, we would sometimes get to day 200. So if you think about just in school alone, you get 2 months off in the summer or 2 weeks at Christmas, things like that. That's a pretty grueling damn schedule. I don't even know that I get home some days in the evening at 6, 7 o'clock and I fall asleep on my couch. So he's 90 damn years old, everybody. Let's cut him some slack. So anyway, in the bottom line of all this is we want to wish Prince Philip a happy retirement, and I hope many more years of health and happiness. And like I said, 70 years they'll be married, him and Queen Elizabeth, this fall. That's huge. My grandparents were married 64 years, I believe, before my grandpa passed away. And that's just, it's a lifetime commitment when you think about it. For my grandparents, they met when my grandma was 15, he was 16. They married when he was 17, she was 16. Back in the day, 19, whatever it was. That's what you did. And at the same time, you look at relationships, and they were solid, they were strong, there was commitment, they were each other's rock. It's 9 years since my grandpa died, and my grandma still mourns him. But when I think about it, when I think about how solid that relationship was, that they would still walk down the street holding hands. She would still, at the kitchen table when company was over, she would still sit on his knee at the kitchen table talking with family. And it was interesting, and I didn't plan on going into a family rant here, and I know they're telling me to wrap this up because we're due for a commercial now, but I just have to say that relationships these days with social media and cheating and breakups and divorce 50% and blah, 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 blah. When I look at, we've got no divorce in our family, when I look at my grandparents' relationship, and they had their roles, okay? So back in the day, the woman cooked. back in the day. I'm not being sexist. What we know, that's what the role was. And he worked and he did the fixing. He did the manly work. He did the driving. He did the banking. He did that kind of stuff. That was the generation. That's how it was. And to them, even going through 1970, 80, 90, 2000, they didn't look at that as being awkward. That was their relationship. It was a solid partnership. So the way it worked in their relationship was she cooked everything, but he would never let her wash a dish. He would physically grab her by the shoulders and sit her down. He would pull her away from the sink and not let her put her hands in that kitchen sink. He would not. And, I've told this story to a few people before, and one woman who was somewhat of a feminist, whatever, when I first started to tell the story, right away she's like, that is so sexist. That is so... And I said, let me finish, because it worked for them. You know what? It worked for them. Who are you to judge? Who are you to say that that's demeaning for her, or that's chauvinistic of him? You don't know. That marriage lasted until the day he died, 60-some years. That is pretty frickin' incredible. So you know what? If she's got to cook 3 meals a day for him, and he's got to wash dishes 3 times a day, who are you to say? Who are you to say? And they just did other things. Like, they didn't have... in their bathroom, they didn't have, like, an actual shower. They had, like, a hose that attached to their bathroom, the bathtub faucet. So they had a bathtub, and he liked taking baths. And again, so he would be having his bath. She would take his clothes, iron them, iron his socks. She would do everything, fold them, and put them back for him when he was about to come out of the bath. Same thing in the yard. He would be cutting the grass. He would be doing all that stuff. She would move the lawn ornaments. So they had like a flamingo or a cow or whatever it was. She would move the stuff. He would go and cut the grass. She would go and put it back. They had their little routines. When we had their 60th anniversary, I still remember this perfectly. We were at the family church where almost everybody's wedding showers and baby showers and everything happened. And there's probably about a good 20, 25 stairs to get up there into the hall. And I still remember watching them, and my uncle, I believe, took a picture walking down the stairs, and they're still holding hands at their 60th anniversary. And another great memory I have, now I do have this picture at home, and it makes me smile every time I see it. Out at the lake, we did a family birthday party one summer, and you see them walking down a gravel road, and there's a sunset kind of behind them. And that is something that is just... That is love. When you think about how quick people are to throw around the L word these days, how many times have you heard somebody say, love ya, love ya? It's like, you don't even know me. And really, that's not a word that you just throw around, if you really want it to mean what it's supposed to mean. So Prince Philip and Queen Elizabeth, my grandparents married, 60 years. We should actually kind of take a look at those relationships back in the day and really see what they were based on. They didn't have... My grandma has a VCR still. I don't think she knows how to use it. But they didn't have computers. They didn't have all that outside interference. Now when you look at social media... Now I'm going on a social media rant. Here we go. Now when you look at social media, there's always something better out there. You're always striving for something more. You're never happy with what you have because you got the wandering eye going, I might find somebody better, somebody hotter, somebody, that's going to please me better. And that's where relationships are failing. I really should be a relationship expert, but I don't want to be. I'm just going to be a radio host and best-selling author, newspaper columnist. We are way over time right now. We're going to take a break for some commercials, and we'll be right back here on The Scribble.
Isn't it crazy that you wait for payday, but before you know it, you're strapped for cash again? It's time to stop blowing your money and become a smart spender with the book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com. Learn simple ways to cut costs at home every day and during special times of the year. Don't go broke at Christmas. Don't remortgage the house for a fancy vacation. The book is filled with tips to save you money throughout the year. Check out the best-selling book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com or on Amazon and iTunes.
Airfares go up and down more than planes themselves. Pricearazzi.travel has you covered when flight prices change on Expedia.com. If the prices drop, you'll be sure to know about it. There's already so much to remember when you travel, and you shouldn't have to worry about paying more than you needed to on your flights. Let Pricearazzi.travel keep an eye on that for you. Your biggest concern should be if you've packed enough money to buy all the trinkets you really don't need, or if your swimsuit shows off enough skin in all the right places, or that while you are away, the kids have enough food in the kennel and that the dogs get to school on time. Wait, flip those last two. Simply register your email address with Pricearazzi.travel and then book your flights on Expedia.com. Your itineraries are automatically sent to Pricearazzi, and you could do your happy dance if the flight becomes cheaper in 24 hours. Better yet, you could actually end up flying for free. And who doesn't love free, right? Find out how to save on your Expedia flights at Pricearazzi.travel. Avoid bank account turbulence and sign up now at Pricearazzi.travel.
Ever had something to get off your chest but never had the balls to say it? That's a load of crap. Speak Free with JB.com is exactly what you've been waiting for. Your chance to tell it like it is and not care what anybody else thinks. Have your say on issues of the day. Join newspaper and radio columnist Jeremy Bradley as he tells it like it is. Hundreds of thousands of people have stopped by, including some well-known celebrities who have had a chat with JB and speak candidly about what's really going on in the world. You can join them too. Have a rant or a rave. Be brave and head on over to www.speakfreewithjb.com now.
Jeremy Bradley here on The Scribble. Again, thanks for tuning in at thescribbleshow.com and on SoundCloud and iTunes. So, like a good, moderately successful, famous person, I always have to tread lightly because people go and say, you're full of yourself. I don't feel that I'm a famous celebrity by any means, but like a good, moderately paid someone who's in the public eye, I get my hair cut at a mall, right? Nothing wrong with that. And so and I hate shopping, by the way, absolutely hate malls. Christmas is the worst time of the year for shopping. I don't like it. I will, full disclosure, I will do a good 2-hour grocery shop. For some reason, I can't get enough grocery shopping. That's my thing. But in terms of going to like from store to store to store in a mall, I can't. What do they say on, what do the Kardashians say? I literally can't. I just can't. So I was getting my hair cut, and I really wasn't going into any stores. But I had to exit through a major department store. I'm not going to mention the name because they're not paying me. I ended up buying from them. So I'm going through, and there's fridges everywhere. Fridges, like, as far as the eye can see. I do know what the word literally means, and I do know how to use it. It was literally across the store, fridges. So my fridge, full disclosure, for the past 2 years has gone, when the fan has stopped or started, it's gone thump, thump, thump. And it works fine. Don't get me wrong. It's not freezing over. It's not warm. It's actually still a good working fridge. Find out it's 19 years old. It's okay. It's good. But when the prices during this scratch and dent sale, which, me being the bargain hunter that I am, I'm sitting there going, there's a little bit of a dent on the fridge door, and there's a scratch on the side. How can I not grab these for not more than one fridge? I don't have that big of a house, but I'm just like, I've got to get a fridge today. Today! The regular price on some of these, $2,000, $3,000. They've gone and discounted them heavily, and then there's a sign that says take an additional 25% off that price. So I don't have the fanciest kitchen because I really don't like cooking, and I'm not a big food person. But I just need a basic fridge, to keep my stuff cold and frozen. And I thought, there's one that's almost exactly like I have now. It's on for like $520, basically. So I go, and I've never bought a major appliance before. This is crazy. I've owned my house for over 9 years now, and I've never had to buy a stove, a fridge, a washer, dryer. I have had to get like a central air conditioner put in, like that kind of thing. But in terms of an actual appliance, big one, I'm not talking microwave, toaster oven kind of a thing, this was the first time. So like a good grown-up homeowner, I call my mom, and because, she's bought appliances, she's 60-some years old, right? My parents have replaced appliances over and over again. And so they live not that far from me, and I was like, hey, what are you doing tonight? And so I said, okay, let's go to this store, because she used to work there as well. Now, she hasn't worked there for about 20 years or so, but I figured she knows the ins and outs of buying from this place. So I said, this woman has, she's shown me around. She showed me some really good ones. I explained what I need. She sent me home to go and measure my kitchen and the fridge that I have and all this other stuff. And so I said, I'm going to go back later. So my mom's like, okay, fine. Yeah, I'll go with you. So we get into the store. Well, sure as crap, the salesperson is my grandma's brother's cousin or something like that. I guess my grandma and her brother would be related. So anyway, I don't remember exactly what the connection was, but bottom line is my mom knows this person. I'm like, okay, small world, this is cool. We're going to get a staff discount. But the woman's with a couple other customers going back and forth, and so my mom's like, it's not like we're best friends. Like, I know her and her parents and her husband or whatever it is, and that's really about it. And so I'm asking, like, have they come to any of our family get-togethers? Like, how do we know them? How close is she with us? Because at least free shipping. I've got to get at least free shipping out of this whole thing. And it turns out, she knows my mom and my aunt and my uncle and a couple other relatives, and she knew my brother's name, and I'm the baby of the family, so she pointed that out as well. But no discount. But again, I'm getting $1,000 and some dollar fridge for like $500. Can't complain about that. But it's very exciting, but then also kind of like, oh my God, this is a major purchase. Here I am. I bought a house how many years ago? Almost a decade ago, and I didn't have such nervous energy and apprehension about that, which is really bizarre. Yet a $500 and some dollar fridge, I'm almost in a panic attack in the store. It was crazy. It was ridiculous. I don't know why I felt that way. But it just seemed like that was a huge buy. I don't know. So, yeah, so I went and bought my first fridge with my mom. There you go, everybody. There's a story for you. Feel free to mock it. We're on Twitter at The Scribble Show.
Who are the Kardashians feuding with now? What did that little thug Justin Bieber do this time? Who's getting hitched? And who's headed for Splitsville? Hear the latest celebrity news and gossip every day on Entertainment Wrap-Up. The good, the bad, the ugly, but mostly the ridiculously hilarious. It's all recapped in this daily segment at entertainmentwrapup.com. Have a laugh at the expense of the rich and famous when they take themselves way too seriously. It's 3 minutes of time-wasting fun at entertainmentwrapup.com. Check out Entertainment Wrap-Up at entertainmentwrapup.com. Brought to you by Speak Free Books.
It's never too early to start thinking about your next holiday. Have you checked out Mexico recently? From tequila tasting, swimming with horses, to ziplining through the jungle and watching whales and dolphins in their natural habitat, Puerto Vallarta has it all. Visit mexico.jbonair.com to see all the fun PV has to offer. That's at mexico.jbonair.com for hundreds of photos, interviews, and videos from around the tourist hotspot. Check out mexico.jbonair.com for all the fun. That's mexico.jbonair.com.
Jeremy Bradley here on this Scribble. So there's this thing called the blame game. And it's not like a proper name. I'm just saying it's a term in general, right? You play the blame game. Something happened, it wasn't me, it was you. You did it, not my fault, whatever. So Kim Kardashian went through this last fall. Remember when she was robbed in Paris and everybody thinking, first off, it was an inside job, for publicity. Then we find out it actually is kind of a theft ring sort of deal. But she was blamed for posting pictures of her $1 million jewels and everything on social media, right? If you follow her or you know anything about them, that's what that family does. And so she was shaken to the core, but also blamed being the victim. And so there are some people who say, you never blame the victim, it's not their fault. But then there are some instances where you kind of go and say, well, it sort of is your fault. A prime example would be if a woman gets raped. I heard this story growing up as a kid. Is that what was she wearing? Was she bringing it on herself based on, what she was wearing or how she was talking, what she was doing? Bottom line is it's never her fault if she's raped, okay? So that's an example. That's not my issue, that's not my point. I'm not going there, so don't start messaging me about rape and blah, blah, blah. What I'm saying is there are some times and places where you almost kind of do want to blame the victim. The Kardashian case, is it her fault? Well, nobody should be robbed and da-da-da-da. Okay, so that's basically what I'm getting at. So, when my house was attempted to be broken into, now this was about a week or so before the Kardashian heist, I was home at the time, and I think I've shared little bits and pieces of this story on the show before, but I was blamed for not having lights on in the front of the house, because that's where these people went. I was in the back in my office, at the back of the house, the back corner of the house, and they were, the people, or one person, whoever was doing this, was at the front of the house and on the other side of the house. So they would not have seen the lights on in my office if they came around they would have noticed it. But then there's that whole, well, it's your fault, you didn't have lights on and everything like that. And so I kind of felt, at first, I did feel, well, you know what, that's true, it was my fault. Here's what happened is parents instill in you from a very early age, at least they did with my generation, that you don't leave lights on in rooms that you're not in when you're home. It's different if you go out for some reason, I don't know why, right? It's okay to leave the light on when you're not home to pretend that somebody's there. But when you're home, if you're not in the living room, if you're not in the kitchen, you don't have those lights on. Well, now, here, that day, my mom is giving me crap going, well, it's pitch black in your house, and blah, blah, blah. Well, you were the one that said not to leave lights on everywhere. So the blame game is very interesting. And let's also compare it to this. So somebody who's maybe jaywalking or crossing a street where they shouldn't, they get hit by a car. For some reason, you instantly feel sorry for the human because they've got maybe damage to their body. You don't necessarily feel sympathy for the person driving that car because it was their fault for some reason. So it wasn't the pedestrian's fault that walked in front of the car's path, because the car does have the right of way on a street like that. I understand at a red light or something, okay, fine. But, do you blame the person who's on foot that walked in front of that car, right? So typically that person's the victim, but I'm sitting there going, as the car owner, as the guy who's traumatized that just hit you, that's a completely different story then. So the victim in that case, is it both people? Is it the car driver? Is it the pedestrian that got hit? I'm not talking from an insurance point of view. I'm not talking about from a driver's ed point of view. I'm not talking from a police crash incident point of view. I'm saying just in the grand scheme of things, who's the actual victim? Are both people the victim? Is one person the victim over the other? Don't know. Would love to hear your thoughts. Live at jbonair.com. Live at jbonair.com. And it sounds like I'm fired up about this, but it reminds me that we live in a society where we are victim. Everybody plays a victim role, whether it's on social media, whether it's, whatever. I'm being bullied. This happened to me. Poor me. Woe is me. It's because I'm a woman. It's because I'm black. It's because I'm gay. It's because this. It's because that. Let's just deal with it and face the facts that sometimes you are to blame for your own situation. Now, I'm not talking about the color of your skin. That's completely different. Don't get me wrong. That's not where I'm headed with this one. But what I'm saying is that you're making life choices. Things happen to you maybe because it is of something that you said. Maybe you lost your job because you did something at work. It's not because that you're black that you lost your job. It's think about the kind of employee you were. That's what I'm saying. And again, I'm speaking in general terms. I was not fired. I own this company, so it's not like I lost my job. So I'm just giving hypotheticals and different scenarios and situations that'll make you think, because we're not always victims. For a brief moment, like I said, my house was the scene of an attempted break-in, and it was flipped around on me by a few people that it was my fault that somebody tried to kick in the back door when I was home. But the police didn't necessarily say it that way. They were kind of like, well, maybe some motion lights outside, security lighting, and da-da-da-da-da. So in a roundabout way, they said, there are things that you can do to prevent yourself from being a victim. But they certainly didn't say it's your fault, you did this, you did that, you did that. Because again, like I said, that means I'm going to have to leave lights on. When I'm going through my house, I have to sit there thinking, okay, so if you're coming down the sidewalk from this side, I've got to turn lights on in this room so that you can see, because you're going to smash in the window in that room, and it's ridiculous. So anyway, live at jbonair.com. I love hearing your thoughts on my rambling stories. Live at jbonair.com.
We hear you chirping. Get scribbling. Tweet up the Scribble at The Scribble Show. Join the discussion with Jeremy Bradley. It's all going down right now on Twitter at The Scribble Show and at thescribbleshow.com.
Oh, that's right. We're on Twitter. Thank you very much, Larson. We're almost out of time. I got to tell you that I really love doing this podcast because when we do the radio shows, I get maybe like 3 minutes of time, maybe 2.5, sometimes even like 45 seconds. You know how long and rambling my stories are. There is no way that I can cram a JB story into that short amount of time. So the fact that on this podcast I don't have any musical interruptions and I can ramble on for 14 minutes, all the while people in the corner of the room are going, we are 5 minutes over. What the hell are we going to do now? Well, you know what? We let them talk, and then we just catch up with commercials after the fact. So I want to thank everybody who tunes in week after week. I love your emails, love your tweets. Feel free to give me a shout. Live at jbonair.com is the email address, as you've heard a couple of times already. Live at jbonair.com. And again, on Twitter at The Scribble Show, And we're just weeks away from The Bachelorette. on ABC, so that's going to be something. I do love tweeting with Bachelor Nation Monday nights, so that's something to look forward to at the end of May. But for now, my name is Jeremy Bradley. This is The Scribble. Check out our daily entertainment headlines at entertainmentwrapup.com. That's entertainmentwrapup.com, and I will talk to you same time, same place, next Friday, right here on The Scribble. Bye-bye, everybody.
Want more Scribble? Check out thescribbleshow.com for past shows, celebrity interviews, cheapskate tips, and more. That's at thescribbleshow.com and on Twitter at The Scribble Show. The Scribble is a speak-free media presentation.
If you want some real heat